Hello.
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 Hello, Ivanka. Hello, Anastas. It's good to see you.
Yes, nice to see you all.
Okay. So I see Anastas. Hello. I hope you can hear me. I'm trying to share. I see Ivanka, Sorin. I don't see Mahmoud. Are you there? I don't know why. My camera, I'm trying to activate. Is anyone from the office, from the Black Sea University network online from the office?
I don't think so. There was someone at the camera where is nobody now, so it seems an office, but he was there, but then he moved. So
I don't know why, because we are all online now, but we need somebody from the office also, because the platform is handled actually by the Black Sea University. So this is a joint webinar organized by the Black Sea University Network together with Unica, but the platform belongs to the Black Sea, so I don't know why I don't see the...
Luciano?
Hello, Eden? Yes.
No, it's Anastas. You can see in the chat, the office is writing to you something about sharing your webcam.
Yeah, I'm trying to share. I'm trying to share, but it doesn't work. This is the problem. I see like an arrow moving. I mean, I try to push like web. I don't know why I'm trying to share indeed, but I don't know. It's a share back. I don't know why this is. It's like locked. They say that is locked. I don't know. Anyway, my face is not so important as long as you can hear me well. Can you hear me well? Yes, this is the most important thing. Then I hope my image also will be shown soon. Yes, no, the permission. I mean, I know usually it doesn't. I don't see why my camera doesn't. But anyway, I think my image is not so important. But Professor Mahmoud, are you online? Okay, because it's 2:05. I think we should slowly start, and I hope that Professor Mahmoud, can the office reply to this? Is Professor Mahmoud joining us very soon? Please, can you reply to this question? Yeah, he's joining soon. What does it mean soon? Just shall we wait a few moments? Because okay, so I just want to share that okay, so it's a panel discussion. So you received the questions. So let me go through again the whole program just to make sure that everyone. We have this panel with different sessions. So the first session will be on the topic towards virtual and blended education. So we have 3 panelists. All the panelists are in alphabetical order. So we decided to use this order to avoid any kind of kind of observations on that. So we have Professor Kostreye, and we have Professor Gerdigov and Professor Sidorenko replying to some questions. And then we will read the questions before starting the session. And then you have half an hour, actually a little bit less, because we are starting with a little delay. Then 2:30, we will start a second session on new challenges for university management. And then there we will have Professor Genziana Kera, Professor Ivanka Popovic, and Professor Sibel Susan will be in the second session. And then we have another session on university administration with Professor Ivanka Popovic, Professor Sergei Sidorenko, and Professor Sibel Susan with other questions. And then finally, we have a session on education and society with Professor Sorin Kostreye, Anastas Gerdigov, and Genziana Kera. So some of the speakers will be in different sessions because we try to accommodate all your preferences that you gave on the different questions that we sent you. So of course, we know that there is an overlapping between the different sessions. So of course, when replying to something, of course, you may touch upon other issues. We hope that this model will be interesting for other people, of course, online listening to your talks. And I think we should start very soon. Oh, Eden is here. Eden, are you there?
Yes, hello everybody. Excuse me for this technical issue. Also, we have a problem with connecting the camera. So for that reason, I had to restart the laptop, and that took a few minutes. But in any case, there is something that I don't understand for the time being. It looks like there is a conflict with some other applications on my laptop sharing this camera. But in any way, thank you everybody for accepting this invitation, and please excuse me for this delay. What I wanted to add to what Professor Sasso was mentioning a little bit early is that on behalf of the Technical University of Ukraine, the Igor Sikorsky University, Professor Sidorenko is now in a very urgent meeting. And for that reason, we have been informed that there will be somebody else on behalf of the Kiev Polytechnic University. Is Professor Polishuk is online? Evgeny, can you hear us?
Yes,
or Demiadenko, Olga. Okay, so in any case, they will join on the way. So I also propose to start the discussions, and of course it has been a very quick, let's say, preparation time. Thank you very much to Professor Sasso for this partnership between the BSUN and UNICA. And as it was proposed, we could start with the first panel. In the first panel, as you have seen, is let's say is grouped the few aspects related to the way in which very suddenly we've been forced to face these realities. So from that perspective, there is a proposed list of speakers based on your on your interest that was expressed in the invitation and the reply. But besides of that, I would like to inform you that there are more than 60 participants that have been registered to follow this event. And within this list of persons and colleagues that have been registered, there is a long list of very special colleagues from many other countries, starting from Azerbaijan up to Greece.
Ну попробуй ей объяснить это самое. Сейчас я тебе скажу ее телефон.
Please mute all the microphones. I mean, the people who are not speaking, please mute your microphone.
Okay, so in this context,
982 49 29.
Professor Yavan Polishuk, please.
Да, потому что он получил мое письмо и это самое.
Adam, can you please tell him to mute the microphone?
so I shall ask.
Mute the microphone or in English.
Just 1 second, we'll do that.
Yeah, because otherwise you need to mute it automatically from the control panel.
No. Okay, so we are now, let's say, in the first part of the discussion, and as you have seen in the program that we already sent to you. So, Professor Sasso, would you like to add something?
Just a couple of words. Again, thank you to Professor Mahmoud for this very good collaboration. I mean, this is the first webinar that we are organizing together. We apologize already with the participants that maybe not everything will be perfect in terms of technical aspects, but let's say we are learning by doing. These are the first webinars that we are organizing. Then hopefully everything will go well. And also, again, I would like to ask all speakers to be very, very brief, to leave time for the discussion. So even if there are different questions, we kindly ask all the speakers to try to cover in not more than 5 minutes the topic of the session, so that we can have a round of also of discussion with some questions. And also, I want to just mention again, from the point of view of UNICA, that UNICA is a network of 53 universities in 37 capital cities. Our association is based in Basel, and we try to organize different activities related to different topics, and this is a very relevant one. So the topic of today is very relevant for UNICA. We actually performed a survey recently. We produced a document which is online on the impact of the COVID-19 of UNICA universities. So please have a look on the document, which is quite rich, and I hope it will be also a good basis for the discussion today. And I really hope that this event will be useful for our members. And thanks again to the Black Sea University Network and to Professor Mahmoud for the collaboration.
Thank you, Professor Sasso. So now what I wanted to just to say just finally is that the colleagues that are following this discussion, they have also the possibility with the chat. There is a chat room where they could post different questions. So with your permission, I would start the first part of the discussion, where we put a very, let's say, short title towards virtual and blended education. But we wanted to start with, let's say, sort of small overview of the aspects that your university challenged during this period. So I would invite first Professor Costre, Sorin Costre. He is the Vice Rector of the University of Bucharest, and he's responsible as a Vice Rector for strategic partnerships. So Professor Costre, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Mahmoud. Thank you, Professor Sasso. for inviting us, and we value a lot these two networks. But since we are under the time pressure, I'm going to not to address these questions because there are 4 questions in this panel, but I'm going to make a kind of blended answer to all of them, starting with the first. The first question was, which were the main challenges for your university during the COVID-19 crisis? Well, I would say that for us, for University of Bucharest, the main challenge, and I think that for all of us it was the rapid adaptation to this new and unexpected situation, because I would say suddenly we set up the normal course and to move quickly to the online and online interaction with our students. And also, in terms of administrative working, it was a mess because we had to do the same, and we were only partially expecting such a huge amount of work. So another thing was the lack of relevant information of what to do. And we try to organize ourselves as soon as possible. And that means we had a group for online teaching, which was very challenging for us. And also we bought, for instance, 2 servers, because online teaching needs a lot of information online. And our infrastructure wasn't designed to support such a flux of information. So I say that the main challenges would be this rapid adaptation and communication with students, communication among us, I mean professors, and communication with the administrative staff. Because everybody more or less was stayed at home, and we need first to organize technically everybody to have access to the internet. I mean, not just the internet, to a good internet, because we Zoomed all the time. I'm calling Zoom like the general term for Xerox, because we use a lot of platforms and programs for interaction. But let's say we Zoom a lot of time, like we had meetings, administrative meetings, 3-4 per day at the very beginning. Now I think we are more relaxed, and we are moving to this blended whatever would be, because that would be blended education, that would be blended administrative work, like is right now. Part of our administrative staff, it's working again in the building, in our offices, but like half of it is still home, and we are trying to put it in circles such that to have people coming, but not at the same time at the offices, but still to solve all the problems of the university. So I'm not going to say much because we are under time pressure, and there are other 2 colleagues, and I will really leave room. I would like to leave room for discussions, which I think they are very important. Anyway, I'm very happy to see you again, even though virtually, but I miss a lot our Unify and Zoom meetings. So I will stop here with my response, and maybe I'll come again during discussion time.
Thank you very much, Professor Costreie. Yes, it is a very important challenge that passed in this period, and it was the creativity of our colleagues and their agile behavior to try to solve on the move all these problems. So I would invite now Professor Gergikov. He is the rector of the flagship University of Bulgaria, the Ohrid Kleminski University of Sofia.
Thank you, Professor Mahmut. I will start by saying that the document Luciano mentioned is very important because I won't be able to say anything new after I received this document. It's a survey of many universities which had to face the crisis and try to solve the problems in a similar way. So I will speak about two main challenges and problems. First, before we went to organizing the online education, we had to repatriate our students and staff which were abroad during at the beginning of the crisis. So our international relations office was supporting students and staff and did everything possible to get them back, bringing students home. And it was difficult because many flights were cancelled. We didn't have a connection to every student abroad and so on. So this was the first problem. We needed several weeks until we solved all the issues. We were not prepared for such type of situations, so it was difficult. After that, we had, of course, to organize online education for 20,000 people, which was not easy. And we started by using our facilities because we had in the past few years we had the opportunity to buy some equipment and to finance a better internet connection and so on, which were very good for this problem for solving this problem. So online learning started pretty quickly. It was working well at Sofia University, and we made the transition to full online teaching very fast. We had several other issues connected to this. For example, we need administrative or technical services during the crisis, which was not very easy because many of the people were staying at home. And also we needed library services because it's impossible to have everything online. We have digital resources online, of course, but we have only on bachelor level, we have 120 programs. So it was impossible to have all the materials for many thousands, for thousands of courses online. And we had to use the library, which was a challenge during this time. Well, we managed to do this with the online courses, but there are some courses, especially in the field of natural sciences and especially in the field of medicine education, which were connected to the need to be physically there. So if you have a training program which requires you to be physically there, if you have field work, experimental activities and so on, it's impossible to do this online. So it was difficult for these subjects to solve the introducing of online education. And the medicine students started this week with offline courses, I mean, by being present there. We had some technical difficulties, but not many. As I mentioned, we managed to buy the necessary equipment in the last years. We had to decide which platform to use. We have, at the university, we usually use the Moodle platform, but many of the teaching staff, many of my colleagues wanted to use Zoom or Google Teams or Microsoft Teams, different platforms, which was a problem. Many universities use one platform and many universities give to the teachers the freedom to use several platforms at once. And we did the first, we used Moodle, but some of the teachers choose to use different platforms because it was not always possible to use Moodle. The next challenge was the or is, because it's now is the time to do the exams, the evaluation of students after the end of the semester, because distance examination is not always possible, especially of examination of large groups. For example, in the field of law, it's difficult to do this exam online, and also it's difficult to choose between written exams, oral exams, essays, group work, and so on, in order to make it easy to organize the exams online. So we are still trying to solve this issue, because we have these exams until the end of this month. And at the end, we had also problems, of course, with research, because it's impossible to do in many areas. It's impossible to do research without being present there. We had problems with discussing degree and doctoral thesis, and of course, laboratory work was basically suspended. So these were the main issues, and many of them were easy to solve, and others we are still trying to solve them. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Gergikov, and for the aspects that you have presented. Now we shall move a little bit towards a different experience, because we have Professor Olga Demidenko, and she is responsible at KPI on the, let's say, mobility and international students. So from your perspective, how do you consider that using this context and all the aspects that have been revealed, how this can be turned into an opportunity? How can we offer more to the students by combining the aspects of physical and virtual mobility?
Thank you very much, and for all, let me express sincere gratitude to the organizing committee of this event. It's really important for us to meet and discuss everything related to this challenging time, the opportunities and further steps. And actually, I'm not only the representative of international mobility, but also of the Department of Student Affairs of the university, and we dealt closely with all the members of educational process and education at the university level. And of course, if to start with mobility, it was really challenging time, because a lot of students returned in emergency situation.
The quality is not very good. I suggest you should turn off the camera. Sometimes it helps to improve the quality of the audio, because it's better to listen well rather. So it's a good usually solution to reduce the bandwidth. Just turn off the camera. Maybe we can hear you better, Olga.
Do you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, we can hear you, but the only problem, I think, is that probably Mr. Polishuk is next to you, and there is something like a microphone or something like that. Can Mr. Polishuk close the microphone or mute the microphone?
Or Olga, you can close the camera, because you have a better transmission of the audio when you close the camera.
Okay, I will close the camera and I will proceed without camera. So let's try in such way. Right now, do you hear me?
Yeah, it is better. It is better now without camera. Yes.
Okay, great. So the challenges continue. As for the mobility, we of course we had challenges, because a lot of students who were under Erasmus in Europe, they had to return to Ukraine, and we had several weeks facing this challenge. a lot of European students who also were taking the Erasmus at our university also returned home, and this also had some needed a couple of weeks to organize everything. But we that all the participants of the educational process with strong support, starting from medical issues and even psychological ones, because we have something like a university social service, and we provided them with psychological even support. And of course, to organize everything well at a university, from the point of view of educational process, we also shifted to something like blended learning, because we also used platforms, but our teachers and students, they agreed on which platform to choose, Zoom or WebEx or any other they wanted, or Google Classroom. And it was their choice. And we also have some system at university. It is called Electronic Campus, and it had been established and implemented long before the pandemic occurred. We approximately more than 5 years. And we just intensified this platform, and all the assessment issues, all the control issues, all the organizational issues were of the educational process at the university were to using this platform, and it was really good solution, and it proved its efficacy during this challenging time. And the virtual mobility and blended mobility, I think it's a good time for trying new ways, even for mobility, for such kind of cooperation, and because a lot of students continued their study. They returned to Ukraine, but continued, for example, Erasmus, and they were successful. And I think this is maybe a new step for the cooperation in such in the direction, maybe in such kind. Now we also proceed at our university, and in Ukraine everything also proceeds in online. Because we observe slight endemic rates in Ukraine, and that's why analysts and tests they occur also online. But we hope that we will return to normal teaching in September, and but hoping that we have this possibility. That's maybe for this. If you have some questions, can you hear me right now? And Professor Mahmoud?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you, Olga. It was a good presentation. Eden, are you there? I think Eden is is not listening for some reason, so I will continue. So I think this was a very good start. I mean, thank you for your thoughts. I think I don't see here online questions. One possibility would be to go on with these rounds, because some of the topics are actually interconnected. So if you agree, I would open the discussion at the end, because I think we can cover also the other aspects, and then we try to leave some time at the end for the discussion. So I will go to the second session, and I kindly ask, so as I said in the beginning, we try to design a program in which some of the speakers are actually participating in different panels, but the angles are different. So now we start the second session, which is entitled New Challenges for University Management. And then here we have Professor Genziana Kera, Vice Rector of the University of Tirana, Professor Ivanka Popovic, Rector of the University of Belgrade, and Professor Sibel Susan, Vice Rector of the University of Ankara. And we have two different questions that I would like to pose to you. One is very interesting for me, is related to research, because it was already mentioned by the Rector of the University of Sofia, and I fully agree. I mean, depends very much on the disciplines. I mean, some activities suffered more than others in this COVID time, because not everything can be actually brought to online activities. And one of the activities is research. In some research areas, really the physical activities are essential. So the first question that I would like to pose to the panel is related to research and innovation. Which were the main challenges and opportunities for your university? So we go around with Professor Kera, Professor Popovic, and Professor Susan, please.
Thank you, Luciano. Good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure to see you, even though it's not in person in a university campus, which would have been naturally very nice, but it's still, I think this initiative is a very important one. And I would support what the colleague in the first session said about the survey and the analysis of the data that we received, which was in a certain way comforting, seeing that all of us had mainly the same problems. Of course, it's different because everything depends also on the resources that each university has in its possession to manage the situation that was very abrupt. We had to adjust very quickly to a completely new and unknown situation at work. Of course, there were many problems related to research, especially it was problematic for projects that had already or were just about to start, and those who were near the end of the project, because we had several issues in managing this process, and delays, cancellations of activities were among the most important ones. I am still getting actually also cancellations of events that are conferences that are planned for September, because the whole situation is still very unclear, and I think it's a bit more complicated also for universities that operate in countries outside of the European Union, because there we have also different travel regulations and everything else. So this suspension of activities, this delay or cancellation, or eventually when it's possible and we receive a delay or a postponement of the end of the project, we will try to do everything then in autumn, but this is also still very, very unclear, because we are hearing all the time about the second wave and we don't know how the things will proceed. And this is also a problem, because we had during these months either more management work on several projects or less work in others, but less works meaning then that we will have much more to do in autumn, because the work in the framework of the project need to be done. So this kind of balancing different projects that we have is a challenge, and I think it will be a challenge also for the whole year, and depending on the situation, probably also next year. The main issue is related, as Professor Luciano said, also with projects that have practical research or applications and are related to field work, for example, because it was impossible to do interviews when this was needed, or even focus groups, or everything else that is related to field work, and especially the lab work was basically impossible, because the universities were we had to adjust to very strict regulations about working in the premises of the universities, and for some time it was completely closed, and we had to work from work. So these were the main challenges that we had, which I'm sure sound familiar to all of you. The opportunities, we can see the whole situation as an opportunity, and I think one which is both a challenge and an opportunity, it would be to somehow reevaluate the whole management process of the projects, and try to do more work eventually online. It's not optimal because it's always good to meet with people, because you discuss not only in the 1 or 2 hours but the online activity goes on, but you also discuss on coffee breaks, and you have a more exchange, which is the point of the activities we organize. But of course, there are activities that we could do online, and I think this webinar is a good example that also in the framework of networks, we could meet more, because of course there are yearly activities that are organized, but I think that organizing such webinars where we exchange on certain topics, it must not be COVID-19, but other issues that are related to our work, and eventually propose solutions. So I think we can see this as a model of work that we can use more in the future, even when the situation is then normal. And of course, the online activities offer opportunities for a larger impact of universities on the society. We can reach a wider audience because such an online activity can be followed by people everywhere. They must not be in office, but they can be in their cars or somewhere else, and they can I think we can use such online activities to reach a wider audience of our societies, and this would of course increase the impact of universities in the society. So I will stop here. I think just to not take much time, and we can then discuss more about the challenges and opportunities that each institution had.
Thank you very much, Genziana. Very interesting thoughts and observations. Now we continue with the Professor Ivanka Popovic, Director of the University of Belgrade.
Hello, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all, and I hope that we can draw some useful conclusions from this meeting. Well, of course, the challenges for university administration were numerous, and many of them mostly logistic, but as your question was pertaining to research, I will now focus on this aspect. And I would say that we chose to say that this period of lockdown was a period primarily of reflection for our researchers, because most of the time our researchers are really overloaded with very different types of obligations and always running after certain deadlines, which actually hinders them in their ability to stop, pause, and think about their future plans, generally the strategy of their research. And we said, okay, limited access to labs. Generally, there was disruption of procurement activities, which is also a problem for the natural, medical, and engineering sciences. So I would say that maybe the social studies research suffered the least, and was maybe actually beneficial to have people having the time to reflect, although access to libraries was not possible, physical access. So I would say what we can see as a result of this, as we are also in the process this year, there will be some national calls for projects that we see people who are really engaging deeply in preparing new project proposals. And also we are seeing now a great influx of completed PhD theses that will need to be evaluated by the procedures by the committees and to go toward their defense. So I think the time was well spent, and except for people who are involved in executive management, I think there was the opportunity also in a broader sense of looking at research and how it's related to teaching. That was a possibility to also polish up your class notes, to maybe innovate your textbooks, and all in all to improve the quality of all the activities we do. So in this respect, that was an upside of this whole time spent at home. On the other hand, even though we had in the beginning the enthusiasm of the students for the online teaching, I think at one point the students have relaxed too much, and I expect them to have a bit of a tough time getting back into shape. And we will see the results now. We're in the middle of our exam period, and at the moment the university is functioning and open, of course, observing distancing. So, but I am really curious to see whether the students could maintain a strict work schedule while they were at home with outside of a structured educational system. I think we're all curious about this point. And this point can also be related to what we will talk about later about this connection to online learning and whether universities will survive. But in a nutshell, I think we had to be rational in how we spent our time, and that there was no point being frustrated that you couldn't be in the lab.
Thank you very much, Ivanka. Very interesting and very useful what you are sharing. Now I would like to give the floor to Professor Sibel Susan, the Vice Rector of the University of Ankara. Thank you, Sibel. Sibel, you have to unmute your microphone, yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's very nice to see you all here and connect with you after such a long time. We were seeing each other more often during our meetings, but I hope it will come very soon again. And thank you for Luciano and Mahmut for organizing this meeting, because sharing is very, very important, because we don't know what to do. Last couple of months, it was quite a panicking time for probably every university, how to handle the situation. And regarding these research and innovation activities, as a university, we found ourselves in between the challenges and the opportunities. I don't know which one is, well, we are close to which one. Maybe you can tell me after I explain what happened to us as a university. Research and innovation, of course, they are vital ingredients for higher educations. And last maybe 8-10 years, we were focusing on, as a university, on these elements very closely, because it's a comprehensive university and a leading university in Turkey. So one of the biggest universities. So this situation affected us very, very deeply. So what happened during this COVID-19 period, we focused directly to research related to pandemic. So it happened actually directly the governmental institutions. So they actually offered us many grants for research. So many researchers in the university, they prepared new projects. So many of them are accepted, and they started to work on the subjects related to pandemic, the COVID-19. And maybe one of the reasons is the university has 2 big hospitals in Ankara, located in Ankara, with 2,000 beds. And these hospitals are pandemic hospitals, and there is a research unit in the hospital area. So mainly the research focused on the medical area. The other part of the research suspended or worked very slowly, and in the governmental health authorities, Ministry of Health and National Science and Research Institutions, they offered a lot of funding for this kind of research. And in the biotechnology institution, we had many research started going on related to vaccine and the drug development of the COVID-19. Suddenly, we found ourselves in this kind of research in the last 3 months. And so the faculty researchers started to work in, most of them are in the biotechnology institution. And finally, they isolated the virus, and the research changed into directly to related research to the virus. Then, so what we see now, the university research policy is adapted itself to COVID-19. And not only the medical research, of course, in the agenda of the university, also the elderly studies who are affected mostly in this pandemic, and healthcare studies, or all the some digital and technological research studies, and production of hand sanitizer and protective equipment, ventilator. This kind of projects had the priority, but it's of course not easy to handle. But we, as I told you before, the governmental institutional help for funding helped this to create these research. So so I don't know if we can say this situation is an opportunity to start a lot of research altogether, but it was all of a sudden, and we weren't very well prepared to handle all this kind of research. Many big universities are in this situation in Turkey now. They are doing research, but it started suddenly. And now we are able to, the good thing maybe, it's a research-based university, and health science is very important in Ankara University. So we are able to focus on medical projects, and maybe this is a very positive effect. But however, at the same time, we have other social disciplines. Now we are, it looks like we are neglecting these disciplines at the moment, but I think in a couple of months' time, we will make a balance between these disciplines. So the crisis can be positive and as well as a negative effect on research. We haven't been able to continue as planned as a university, like the other maybe universities in the world. And it has certainly been productive and forced us to think outside the box and think about different things. So we had to be ready for more challenges related with this disease, because I am not sure if it's going to end very soon. Last month, the Ankara was going very well, but now, since last week, I think we have the second wave, they call. So it means this situation in the university will continue a bit more. So we have to be organized about this research. So what we have to do for research. And this is not only the perspective of the research and innovation at the university. Also, we have the PhD and master science students and their work. So these are a kind of research as well. They are now going slower because we are keen on the other part of the research of the university. So I think it's quite a disadvantage for the university. And what can I?
Thank you, Sibel. I have to go on. Thank you very much. Very interesting remarks. I think this panel is really providing a lot of food for thought for all of us. And I have another question in this session, which is different in a way, but also for me very interesting. The question is related to other possible providers of online education, because the question is, if we now move all university education online, of course there are potential, in a way, competitors. So this question is a little bit a provocation for us to think about that. So we have some kind of possible competitors which are providers of education which existed already before, and they were active but in a different way. So I'm talking about, for instance, Coursera, edX, other providers of MOOCs. So the question for the panel, but I kindly ask you to reply, I would say 2, maximum 3 minutes each. Which is your feeling, which is your opinion about this challenge? I mean, are universities, traditional universities, moving education online because of the COVID, because of this digital shock? Will find competition with this kind of providers? And even more provocative is the question is, will universities survive in the new digital era? Let me just mention that we have to reflect on the fact that universities are some of the most ancient institutions in the world. There are Arab universities which are older than 1,000 years. There are European universities which have more than 900 years. So universities survived many challenges. Panel, and I know that the question is quite complex, but I ask you the miracle to reply in 2-3 minutes each. What is your feeling? Will universities survive in the new digital era? And again, we go through Professor Kera, Professor Popovic, and Professor Susan, please.
Thank you, Luciano. Yes, well, I think also it's a provocative question. As an historian, I totally agree with what you said, and I really think that the universities will survive also this challenge. We are adapting, but I really hope that we won't be having the classes and everything else online for the next years to come. Of course, the situation is still unpredictable. We really don't know what is going to happen, but I think and I hope that we will return to normal soon. Because and we should consider this is a kind of intermediate phase. It's not that the universities will go completely online for the next years. I think this will not happen, and I actually hope that this will not happen, because the studies, it's not just about following lectures. It's the whole experience. It's the whole experience at campus, with the activities, the exchange with our students, not just the teachers, and the exchange of students among each other. It's a bit more complicated, because when you have a lecture online, then it's a technical issue, open, close microphones, who speaks first, and it's kind of somehow demotivating for students. So I think the university experience as a whole, it's what is going to help universities survive, because it's not just about the lectures. It's much more complex, and the whole experience, I think that it will be something that the young people will want also in the future, because they have been facing many challenges. For example, the students that are in a mobility abroad, and we are receiving constantly requests that they, because most of our students stayed in their universities, in their host universities, but the experience was not a whole one, because they were following lectures online, and many of them are asking whether they can have another semester, or the people who couldn't travel or returned due to the situation, whether they can have the semester abroad. So despite that we are ourselves trying to adjust and respond to the situation, I think that the whole university experience will be something that the students will want. So, well, I think the university will manage also to survive in this digital era.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Ivanka, please.
So I am definitely sure that universities will survive and also flourish in these new circumstances, because I think what a relevant moment during this crisis was actually that many universities that were not taking advantage of various learning tools that using IT were forced to do so. And I think that this will spark an increase in blended learning and taking advantage of the opportunities that blended learning entails. So I think this will be a definite improvement across the board. And why I think universities cannot be damaged by, let's call, various forms of formal and informal and non-formal education which are available, is that simply, as you know, with these MOOCs and other course offerings that exist, it's one thing to take a course, it's a completely different thing to take a degree online. And what my predecessor said, that the whole experience of personal growth that happens during university life, not just the professional aspect of the university education, is extremely important. And you really need an environment where people are together to learn various aspects of teamwork and how to cope with personal interactions, and to provide these various skills that will give our students the edge so that they can be socially somehow capable of doing their job, not only in the professional sense, but also that they can contribute to their surroundings and to their community. So I think these are some of the things that we have learned, and what maybe we will be more open to, maybe accepting additional education gained by students through other means. And I think for a student's CV, when they go onto the job market, it can be quite beneficial if they have some elements or skills that they have learned from other providers of education. But when you come down to some of the professions that require basic skills, for example, that are, let's say, manual skills in a laboratory or with some kind of equipment, it's very limited what you can do online. I'm not saying that you can't do it through various simulations, but it's somewhere in the end you have to put people together and get them exchanging at a level that is also within physical presence. So I'm really not worried about the future of universities, and I hope that we will be wise enough to take advantage of the things we've learned during the past few months.
Thank you very much, Ivanka. Very interesting. Sibal?
I agree with my colleagues. They are actually quite attractive, these kind of courses, because the universities are very fashionable and very well-known universities. But I've done some research related to the numbers of these courses, who are actually chosen these courses. And what I found, actually, although they are very attractive for the less advantaged maybe students or people, because they can't go abroad and take these courses, so it's a good opportunity. But what they found, related research for this subject, every 1 million people who take these courses from Coursera or edX, usually 10% of these people take the certification. They take the lessons, but they don't complete. So the numbers looks very high who are taking the courses, but the certification is the important part. You have to pass the exams, so you have to complete the course. So it is a very important finding for me. So statistics actually show 80% of the students are choosing the bachelor degrees courses. 60% people are actually employed, so they want to take some courses to support their maybe works. So career benefits is much more important than the education. So actually the university education is completely different what we see according to these surveys. So in addition, older non-student people are using mostly these courses. So again, university students are the second who are choosing these courses, and people are aged 25 to 40 usually chose these courses. And what I found, I checked my the other thing, what they found, it is a maybe threat to two-year public colleges. Two-year education vocational schools may be under a threat. The students can choose this kind of programs, but the universities, it looks it's not possible in the near future, this kind of threat from this kind of courses, which are of course important to take some courses from these fashionable and well-known universities, but it's not a threat. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Sibel. So this was another very interesting round of replies to the questions. Eden, are you online? Professor Mahmoud? Maybe he has a problem, so I will continue. I wanted to hand over to him the other session. I hope he will manage to come back online. I asked the office news about Professor Mahmoud. Please let me know. I hope he will manage to join again. At the moment, I will go on, and I hope to be able to leave him the last session to chair. So I will continue. So we designed some other questions for you. So we have now in the third session Ivanka, Olga, and Sibel. And the questions that we thought are related to administration, first of all. So again, the main challenges from the point of view, in this case, of the administrative and technical staff. Have you seen problems or things went smoothly? I can tell you, for instance, from my point of view, as you know, I'm vice rector at Sapienza University. Is a large traditional university, and our staff really reacted in a wonderful way. They were really working from home in a very active way, sharing their mobile phones, working during the weekends, etc. So my impression from Sapienza is very good. Also in the survey that Unica did, we received a very good comment. So I just wanted to have the feedback from you. So related to the administration, again, challenges and opportunities from the point of view. Ivanka, again, please share your experience.
Yes, our experiences at the University of Belgrade are also very good. We have a specific structure to our university. So we have about 100,000 students studying at all levels at 31 faculties, and these faculties have a very large independence, which means that the local administrations of the faculties are also quite extensive. But all in all, I could say that we had a trial run in September of 2019 when we had actually a 10 working day blockade by the students when they took over the building of the rectorate. And this was a time that was not so much fun. But the employees were not allowed inside the building, which means this happened on a Friday afternoon, and that means what you had with you, what was available, that was it for the next actually 2 weeks. And this showed then the possibilities of our system for going online. And some things worked exceptionally well, some things not so well. So after these 2 weeks, when we regained control of our building, we said, okay, this was a very important test, and let's say even a warning, because you never know what can happen. And more or less we said this must be overcome, and that all of our departments within the administration have to be able to, at a moment's notice, be able to work online. And so actually when we closed down the administration during the Corona, we actually functioned at all levels flawlessly. So whether it was interaction with students, teachers, international partners, financial services, everything worked exceptionally well. So there was a period when no one was coming to the building. Then at one point we said, okay, we will categorize our employees to see what levels of risk in terms of health and whether they have family obligations or that because at the time public transportation wasn't either running. We had three groups of, let's say, with levels of risks, and those with the least risk were then asked to, when we were cautiously, let's say, resuming operation, that once a week someone would stop by the office from each of the key departments, and slowly we had then a mixed system of how we functioned, and we did not rush anything because we said, as things were working so well from home with the dedication of our staff, that we could see what was best and have a combined operation of our services. And due to circumstances in Serbia, which I don't know whether they'll change because we're also, whether it's a second wave or a tail of something that's happening, we've seen a bit of increase in number of cases of the virus. But on June the 8th, we more or less opened up, and that staff was asked to come back to the office, but still following very carefully all the guidelines for physical distancing. We are not really so open to, let's say, having clients or interested parties or stakeholders coming to the rectorate building, and but we are arranging that either most, again, things are resolved online, or some kind of, we have now actually a separate meeting room which is available in, let's say, the entrance hall of the university, where people can personally come if it's absolutely necessary for them to do so. So I think all in all, the administration was really responsive and was up to the challenge, and also responsible enough. So I'm not really worried about how we function. I just think that, of course, there must come a bit of a fatigue, and that people are stressed out. And I hope that they can have a little bit of a break over the summer, if there really is a second wave that will come in the autumn, that they have renewed energy to continue. So some of the procedures that we introduced, I think, will stay regardless of special circumstances, because they are good practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivanka. Very interesting. I'm happy to see Eden again online. Eden, I will finish to chair this session, and then I will leave you the last one to chair. So in the end, it's a pleasure again to do this event together, the Black Sea University Network and UNICA. Olga, which are your thoughts about this topic?
Of course, this time was really challenging. Do you hear me, Rama? Is everything okay? And we also had different dimensions of such challenge. First of all, to organize everything to a line, starting from educational process and then proceeding with
Olga, please turn off your camera, because the quality of the audio will be. And just please, I ask in this final part of this panel, please, 2 minutes each, focusing on the administration, because we have another question in this session, and then we need to move on to the last session of the event. Sorry, but the time is very limited.
Okay, Luciano, sorry. So we also dealt with aged people, because it was there were some restrictions for them to come. Yes. Then we needed to organize students who stayed at dormitories and organize all the safety measures for them to behave during the COVID, and I think it was really successful for us. Then we had, it was challenging time for online accreditation because our National Agency for Quality Assessment also worked during COVID, and 10 of our educational programs passed successfully online accreditation because it was planned for the springtime, and everything proceeded online. All the meetings with experts, all the meetings with all the document flow, all the discussions, and etc. It was a really challenging process, but I think we successfully passed it. But it was really interesting to do this, and a lot of our services, especially dealing with students, they sometimes operated like in the form of 24 hours, 7 days a week, because a lot of students had a lot of questions, and we needed to organize fast response to the questions and needs, because it was related from the health conditions and in the education issues on different faculties at different departments, and we did our best to organize this. So maybe if to be short, that's the main challenges, and as from administrative point of view, but I think we managed to successfully pass it, but right now we all hope that September we will meet at university campus at our 120-year buildings and meet in reality, because it's university is is really need to be need to meet new people. And of course, we are looking forward to the challenges of admission campaign, because it will also be some kind of challenging time because of the entrance exams and all the independent assessment of the school graduates, and the admission campaign will be also challenging, but I think we will successfully deal with this. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olga. Thank you. Sibal, please. You need to unmute your microphone.
Okay. We have similar challenges like the other colleagues had, and because it's a capital city university, it's one of the biggest universities like the other capital city universities, 18 faculties, 13 vocational schools, research institutions, is altogether 67,000 people. We have to manage quickly. And at the beginning of March, the education was suspended suddenly. And in 1 week time, we started the online education. And only one chance, maybe positive effect. We had the distant learning center already, and we had some programs already in this center. And we started to use whole university one program for teaching, the same program. And the exams are still trouble. Because we don't have enough time for exams, face-to-face exams, and we try to deal with that. But comparing with the situation is not the biggest worry at the moment. Also, maybe from the point of view of the students, they are not always happy with the online courses. They demand so many different things. They're not satisfied. And but some of them are the true things. Some students can't reach, they can't get access to the internet. So we try to reach these students, and we send them the copy of the lectures. And for disabled students, we did that. If they couldn't reach the programs, we sent the programs for these students. And it was, again, the big university, too many different students, and all over the country to reach them, because the lockdown was very strict. We couldn't move to anywhere, and all the administrative meetings between the departments, we used Zoom to organize these meetings. And I think higher education institutions are at a crossroad now, because we have to organize ourselves for emergencies now. I think this situation will continue maybe next year as well. We have to prepare ourselves for face-to-face education as well as the online education. Maybe the blended programs we have to discuss for our next meetings, or maybe now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sibel. Very interesting. I would like to propose another round, but very quick, with the same panelists, so Ivanka, Olga, and Sibel, on the question related to facilities. So already we touched upon this issue, like, research, of course, needs some facilities, libraries, other aspects I would like to add, for instance, based also on my experience in Sapienza, are the facilities related to IT, issues, because of course we try to improve also the access of students and staff, to certain online courses. I mean, we try to improve. We had a license before with Google Meet, and we improved that. I mean, we started to use more Zoom and Teams, etc. So, which is your experience related to facilities? So, laboratories, libraries, IT facilities, any other facility that you feel that you would like to share as a good practice that can be helpful to other UNICA and BSUN members for the future, to get ready for the academic year after the summer?
Well, I think regarding this issue, it also depends a lot on the size of the university, how, and the flexibility, because with such a large universities as ours, there were so many different platforms and tools available and experiences that we really didn't want to limit people. What I think was a main driving force for many faculties, as maybe there was not mass usage of these tools, that people were looking, first of all, for free tools that were available and the possibilities that they offered. And we were actually surprised by some faculties that they had arrangements either regarding Google Meet or other types of, let's say, tools that actually made them more prepared than other faculties of the university. And we're actually organizing at the national level on the 7th of July a meeting where we will actually exchange at the Serbian level all of the experiences of online teaching and IT tools to achieve this. So I think we will have some kind of essence of this, and that we will use this to communicate and suggest changes in our accreditation standards that will provide more flexibility for teaching and using these tools, because at the moment our let's say, accreditation standards are not that aware, or they don't mention IT tools to a sufficient degree. As far as, so our IT hubs at the various faculties and at the university were working all of the time. They had special permits so that they could be, that they could access the facilities at all times to be able to deal with any issue that would come up. The libraries were unfortunately closed for 52 days during the time of this, it was a state of emergency, so it was simply not possible to have the libraries available, although many faculties made certain documents available on Moodle or various Google platforms, so Google Drive or Google Sheets or whatever. So this was used, and I don't know whether this, let's say, something that maybe I shouldn't say, but whether copyrights were always fully observed, I'm not sure, but the students were provided with sufficient information. And one thing that we also worked on together, actually, with the Serbian government was to try to cater to the needs of those students that perhaps did not have appropriate access to broadband. This is was a serious issue, and I see that also in the UNICA document this is mentioned. And so actually the Serbian government offered, let's say, a few thousand sticks of for wireless Wi-Fi to be distributed to students with the highest needs. And also when we were doing our online teaching, we were faced with challenges when students were either using old computers or had to share with their siblings, or were doing it only through their mobile phone, that sometimes some of the requirements or homework that they were provided with through the online teaching, they had some problems responding to this. But I think when the communication was fully open between the students and the teachers, that these problems were overcome. So all in all, this part with the teaching and the facilities, I think, went well. As far as the research is concerned, it was depending on the type of research, because the deans of faculties were faced with the responsibility of maintaining, let's say, the buildings of the faculties in pristine condition, meaning that all of them, health, the electricity, the power, and the water, and all of these things had to be working properly. And they were not really pleased to have researchers floating around the building when it was not maybe always possible to have some kind of service provider if anything happened. So I would say for these 52 days, people could not physically be in the labs. And whether this is good or bad, it was just, that's how it was. It couldn't be any different. And it was very important when this was being announced that the labs would be closed, that researchers were asked to make sure that any potentially dangerous or sensitive substances or anything that was had to be dealt with in the lab to preserve the lab had to be performed, and also that the authorities had to be, or the student administration or the faculty administration, informed about potential threats that could exist, so that the security could focus on this, and if there were any fire hazards. So this was also quite a complex logistic undertaking. And so as was the closing, so was the opening up again of the labs for operation. As you know, especially also if there are laboratory animals or anything else, it's really quite an impressive list of things that has to be done. And so the researchers also lost time for research because they were doing these preparations for closing and opening, which nobody will really recognize later on that they had this work to do. But in that respect, we are fully aware of the fact that in 2 or 3 years' time, that we will only be judged by what we have, we can prove as a scientific result, and this time will not be recognized. And this is potentially a problem also for the advancement of young researchers, because it was the young researchers that took on the brunt or most of the activities to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivanka. Very interesting. Now I really ask the miracle to Olga and Sibel in 2 minutes, if you can summarize your thoughts, because I would like to hand over the next session to Professor Mahmoud, and we are a little bit late. Thank you. Olga, please.
Okay. Yes, okay. Surely, actually, the lack of access to the laboratories and libraries was really very upsetting for academics and our students, because they needed it for doing research, and that was real challenging problem. And but everything was blocked, and we couldn't allow it. We took all the safety measures to prevent all the potentially dangerous things and to organize the process safely. But I think actually so the problem was the same as Ivanka told, and now we are step by step turning back to our almost normal life, scientific life, doing research, but I think that as for the online, the opportunities of online learning, and this challenging time was really good time to check our adaptation skills and adaptation and ability of university to quickly adapt to new environment, to new conditions, and even in such way. Of course, maybe we are thinking right now on organizing online library for our students. I mentioned before that we had electronic campus where a lot of methodological and teaching materials were uploaded, so we faced little difficulties in this. But online library is a good solution for this, and we are now dealing with this issue. And maybe other steps may be taken to, for example, attract stakeholders, because they are always busy, representatives of business and industries, top professionals, they are always busy to meet students. But right now, online education provided to this us with this opportunity to just to enter Zoom and meet people easier. And this was maybe good side of this, because this helped to organize it in such way. Of course, we are dealing further with this, and right now we think that scientists miss their labs, and students also miss their teachers. So we are waiting for next season, education season, if to say so. I will not take your time, maybe Sybil.
Thank you very much.
If I have to say 2 minutes, yes.
Thank you very much, Olga. Sibel, please.
I'll be very quick. Regarding the libraries, we have online facilities, so the lockdown didn't affect students to reach many sources, journals and books, which were very important, because many of the lectures and courses, online courses, demand from students to essays. So they had the opportunity to get free access if they have the, of course, internet. But we had a survey, and 80% of the students, 80 to 90% of students had no problem for access to internet. So libraries still closed, and the laboratories are still closed in Turkey. But now recently, only the research laboratories are open. Undergraduate students are not allowed to go to the laboratories. Only the research and postgraduate students, if they want to, they go to the laboratories. We had one big problem during the teaching of medicine, pharmacy, dentistry, veterinary, nursing type of faculties, health science faculties, because they have laboratory courses, and they have also compulsory internship studies has to be done during their graduation and education. So what we did is we record the experiments, and now we show the experiment on the video. So it's one way, maybe it's not the effective way, but that's the only solution we found so far, and we show them the video of the experiments. And for the internship studies, we allowed students to find the nearest place if they can find. And so we are not very strict on the internship studies, and whatever they can actually find to do their internship. So we are, as I said, not very strict on the internships. Also, the engineering studies, we started to video all the experiments for the students because we are not sure for the upcoming term. We can't be face-to-face. Most probably we will be still online. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the panelists also of this session. Really, I think was a very interesting round of replies to the questions, and very interesting, I think, for me, and I hope for everyone who is listening. Now I would like to hand over to Professor Mahmoud, the chair for the last session. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much. With this, I would like to take the opportunity to say hello also to our colleagues that are following our discussion. So we have greetings from the Saratov University in Russia, Professor Kuznetsova. We have greetings from Gheorghe Asaki University in Iași, in Romania. Greetings from the university in Bulgaria. Tatiana Stoyanova is sending our greetings. We have greetings also from Dr. Oana Brândă from the Institute for Advanced Studies on Levantine area. We have many greetings also from Paris, from Rome. There are some other colleagues from the Constanța Maritime University, from the Bucharest, the University of Economical Studies, from Azerbaijan. We have the colleagues from Western Caspian University, but also from Baku Higher School of Oil and Gas. So Dr. Irade Akhmadova, she is asking also us about some opinions regarding the possibility to attract international students and how this experience of the COVID-19 would help us in the process to bring more students, more international students, and to have them involved in remote classes. So many other colleagues are with us. So once again, it is a very nice opportunity. Now we are moving towards the next set of questions regarding the relations between the university and the society. And if you are following the questions there, we would like also to discuss a little bit about the risk of a digital divide, because we've seen, even myself, I experienced the problem, technical problems, so there are different aspects of connectivities. We would also like to have your inputs regarding the sustainable development goals. How do you consider that this period of the COVID crisis impacted the aspects related to the engagement for sustainable development? And at the same time, we would like to know what kind of opinions do you have in respect to the role that the universities could play in, let's say, in some sense, being towards or to avoid the incipient economic crisis. So we would like to invite for this Professor Costreie, Professor Gergikov, and Professor Kera to have three opinions. So I would start with Professor Costreie.
Thank you. Thank you again, Professor.
Would you like to start with one specific question, or would you like to make also an opinion regarding all three of them?
I would to have again, because we don't have time to go question by question, to make some general and also specific remarks about the relation between university education in this pandemic context. Because as you may know, we are very paradoxical institutions. We are one of the oldest institutions, and in the same we have this innovative power, and we have to use it in order to endorse innovation in our society. The University of Bucharest, as you may know, is part of the European network of universities dedicated to society. So we take very serious that, and the main challenge would be to step outside the ivory tower. So what we have done more concretely during this COVID-19 challenge, have set a special site on our university site dedicated to pandemic in COVID in special. And what we have done, for instance, the Faculty of Psychology offered therapy for community and also for people outside community who need that, because under this amount of stress, we faced a lot of psychical problems. Another thing was, as you may know, in this part of, we are facing a huge amount of fake news. A center of data checking, and we help our.
Sorry, please close your camera. I think to improve the quality of the audio, you can close your camera. Usually it works.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I wasn't aware of that. I said that we established a kind of data fact-checking center in order to deal with the news. Another thing was that we have a special dedicated category on our site on epidemics in history and culture to tame the whole against this virus. And last but not least, we have established another new category called Voice of Expert. So what I think it's very important for our university in relation to society is to provide expertise and to transfer knowledge and innovation to the society. So these are few examples of what we have tried to do, and I'm pretty sure, and now I'm more comfortable to see that most of us face problems during this period, that there would be another very innovative and positive examples in the University of my colleagues. So thank you. I'm ready to take questions if there will be time and interest at the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much, Professor Costreie. Yes, besides of what you have mentioned, also the University of Bucharest is playing a role of, let's say, guidance also for the other universities in Romania, based also on this participation to civic network and the other let's say projects that you are developing. Let's move to Rector Gergikov. You already in Sofia had an experience on digital technologies, on aspects related to information technologies and communication. So how this experience existing in your university helped you to understand better what is going on and to catch up quickly?
As I already said, we have enough infrastructure at the university. The problem is the students and even the teachers are not obliged to have it. So it's really possible to increase the risk of digital exclusion and even of students dropout, because many of the students have enough good computers and good internet network and so on, but a number of students may not have access to the tools and equipment they need, hardware, software, and network connection. And that's why it's possible to not to be able to participate in online learning for a part of the students. And we were discussing different opportunities, different possibilities to reduce this risk. As Ivanka said, we discussed giving, first it's very difficult to find out which students have difficulties. If we know exactly if we have a list of students who are experiencing difficulties, then we can provide them with sticks or internet access cards or even laptops and so on, or financial support. But it's very difficult to find out which students have these difficulties. And so it's a risk to deepen the inequalities among the students. About the strategies related to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we haven't adopted a strategy, a formal strategy yet. The Dean of the Faculty of Economics is trying to prepare the strategy and to propose it to the Academic Council to adopt it. But we are doing many things. We have some programs in this field. And what I can say is, of course, that during this time the university was much more sustainable than usually, and the same is true for Bulgaria as a country, because in Sofia we had beautiful air during these 3 months of lockdown, because many people didn't use their cars, many productions weren't able to continue to work and so on. And the last question was about the role of universities to help our societies to face the economic crisis, but not only this crisis. We did the same as Bucharest University. We have a new internet site dedicated to the crisis. And the first half of the questions is dedicated to the COVID crisis in terms of how not to spread the virus, how to what to do if you are affected, how to prepare for the crisis and so on. But the second half is dedicated to Sofia University and the way we handle the crisis. First, what we did for the Erasmus students, what we do, for example, to use our computers to be part of a big European network in order to explore the way the virus protein works. Our faculty of biology makes tests of different kinds of masks. The faculty of chemistry is producing a disinfectant to use at the university, and faculty of economics has done many things, many webinars, for example, in order to provide the people with information. The faculty of journalism has established a fact-checking page, and so on, many things. So we are trying to also to write a report. The Faculty of Economics is writing a report trying to predict the development of the economic crisis and to propose some ways to mitigate the crisis in this field. That's what we have done. So if you have questions, I would be glad to answer.
Thank you very much, Rector Gergikov. So actually, we want to pass very quick also to Professor Kera and to have some inputs on behalf of the universities from Albania, and then we shall come back to the general discussion regarding some of the questions and conclusions. So, Professor Kera.
Thank you. I will try to summarize very shortly all the three questions, actually, because several things were already mentioned by the colleagues in this session. Well, I think the main problem when addressing the risk of digital divide according to socioeconomic differences, it's actually difficult to address without addressing some deeper roots of these divides. So that needs also policies which should be in national level at least. And I think in this respect, the universities can help policymakers with results of research which can be done, and also with concrete proposals on what needs to be done. So in this respect, I think the universities can serve as, let's say a think tank, as support for policymakers to make decisions. And of course, the University of Tirana does not have a medicine faculty because a couple of years ago a medicine university was founded. But of course, colleagues were involved in the medical crisis, but also in other fields. For example, we had actually this academic year was very difficult in Albania because we had also a very strong earthquake in November. And for example, our psychology department at the Faculty of Social Sciences was involved in helping people recover from the trauma, because there were also more than 50 people died, so, and the destruction was very immense. So in this respect, there are the different faculties can offer, and they have been offering their help and expertise in overcoming such trauma. I think the question to reduce the risk of this digital divide is very much related to what my colleague said previously about knowing who are the students in need. And I realized that we don't really know much about the background, social and economic background of our students. So I've been thinking, actually, of course, we asked students who follow courses online, do you know of anyone in your class that is not able to follow, and so on and so forth, but it's very sporadic, the information that we get. So in this sense, I think the universities should do something in that direction, eventually through surveys, of course, asking very delicately whether they own a computer or not, or how the internet access is, and so on and so forth. I saw an opportunity actually in the last months regarding this issue, which is not really relevant only for this unusual time of pandemic, but it can be useful and helpful in normal, when we return to normal teaching in the classrooms. There was a positive side that students who have been working, they were able to follow classes online, because we get often students who work and they ask whether they can skip a certain class or not. And in this case, they were able to follow from their work, a shop or some place else where they have been working. So it got me wonder whether we should consider also for the future that during our normal classes, we also offer at the same time an online class so that students can follow. Of course, that depends on technical issues, but in most of cases, you can do Google Classroom and streaming also from the cell phone of the teacher. So it could be something that we should consider. and it would somehow help the students who are working, because they cannot afford to study without working, to follow classes even when they are working. So I think this was an opportunity which was brought to our attention during the pandemic. So this is something that I think we should consider for the future. Regarding the strategies, we haven't been able to do much in that respect, because the attention was, let's say, concentrated on jungling the matters at hand. But of course, the issue will be more broadly addressed in the future by our university. So that would be.
Thank you very much. Yes, there are excellent aspects that have been revealed by this discussion. And now probably we have to move towards the, let's say, general discussion to pick up some questions. So, Luciano, would you like to start with some?
Because unfortunately we have a few minutes. I mean, I really enjoyed the different rounds of questions and answers. So I think the panelists already gave us a very interesting overview of the different issues. I think one of the conclusions is that, of course, we have many challenges, but also many opportunities, that we are trying to go back to normal. But I think the normal after COVID will not be exactly the same as before. So I think this 2020, it's an historical year, and of course very tragic in many respects, for the lives which were lost. Many people suffered. The economical crisis, unfortunately, will be very heavy. This is a topic maybe for another webinar, which could be the role of universities in trying also to reduce the economical crisis that, unfortunately will hit Europe and many other areas of the world. And overall, I think also, as people said, there are many opportunities. I mean, this digital shock can also be useful for universities, for networks like Unica. I have to say we are doing webinars, which is something new. We apologize with the participants. Maybe still technically we are not perfect. We are improving. Hopefully in a few months we'll be super experts in all kind of online platforms, because there are still some challenges over there. Also, I think our societies should improve internet services. I was in another webinar in which there was another provocation saying internet should be a human right very soon. So really you cannot live without internet. And it is true that this is related to the socio-economic divide, because of course we know in our societies not everyone has internet access, not everyone has a device of his or her own. There are families in which there were only one computer or no computers at all, and suddenly, the whole family was asked to work online, to study online. So there are many challenges. So I would maybe ask Eden if there is any hot question in the chat, because I don't see the chat. Maybe we can spend a few minutes to try to reply to some participants, maybe if they put any question on the chat.
So I mentioned a little bit early, thank you, Luciano. So I mentioned a little bit early, it was a question on behalf of the colleagues from Baku High School of Oil. So they were asking regarding the experience that you have and the actions that you took in order to address the international students, to attract them this year in these conditions of the COVID crisis, with the lockdown, with different flights and connections that have been broken, how you have addressed this issue, and how you are thinking that this can be done in the next period. Maybe Professor Popovic, you would like to say a few words on that?
Yes, thank you very much. This is something that we've been talking about a lot. I think within the whole, let's say, Erasmus community in Serbia, we have been talking about actually more virtual or short-term exchanges, because we're not sure that the winter semester will be operational at all. You know that some major universities have canceled Erasmus mobilities in the winter semester. So it's not that easy even to make any plans because you don't know what your partner university is planning or not planning. So I think we will take a step-by-step approach to see how things develop. And definitely, I think that we will not see students staying for a full semester. This is definitely, I think, too much and open for risks. And what we see also that not all parts of Europe have been impacted in the same way with the COVID crisis. So this will also affect how these exchanges will be done. I think a very good test case is actually how the holiday season will be treated, and whether there will be normal travel across Europe or not, or whether there will be restrictions. Now we are witnessing the beginning of this, but I think in mid-July we will know where we stand at this point, and that will be a very good experience to try to assess how the mobilities will work. But I also have to say one more point, that at least for the University of Belgrade, where Erasmus mobility and CIPUS are the key tools or vehicles for mobility, this for us is a very important question because it's related to our partners abroad. But on the other hand, this is not an issue for the majority of the students. So I would say it's important, we're bound by our obligations to our partners, that we have to make sure that the exchange can happen, but I think most students are not really considering mobility this semester, in the next semester, and maybe even the whole school year. So I don't think we should overemphasize the problem of mobility. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this point. I hope also our colleagues from Azerbaijan, they followed. But I fully agree with your remark, and I want to use this remark to put the problem in the other way. For instance, in this process of digitalization, the use of remote labs and the procedures for developing activities remotely, do you consider that will open the door for the possibility of sharing the facilities? So different universities, they could have now much more openness to share their facility between the universities. Do you think that this could give a boost to such an opportunity? Maybe Professor Costrei, you would like to start?
I would like just to say few words, but I don't know how much time do we have. Of course that we would like to share the facilities. In fact, we even did it, and we work, for instance, with the government, with the Minister of Planning, or I don't know how is the exact title, in order to help them to organize the examinations for their staff. And many other actions, for instance, the collaboration between the Faculty of Biology and Chemistry, also with the government and with some hospitals, medical domain. So there are many other examples in which we could and we should bring the expertise, our theoretical expertise, into the society and to improve the economy and many other aspects of our society.
Thank you very much.
I think Adam is getting late now. We have to just probably wrap up. Maybe, yeah, if there are very short interventions, unless I think we schedule this webinar until 4, maybe people will have other meetings after that in this new digital life. I think our life is packed between one Zoom and another. So I think it's maybe if there is any other short intervention, and then I ask Professor Mahmoud to wrap up.
Yes, Luciano, I would propose.
Network.
I don't know if you have done this. You sent to all directors of the Unica network this report about the survey. Could you please send this to Professor Mahmoud in order to spread it through the?
No, we send it. We send it again, but we send it to all Unica members. So we will send it again. But I think your office, Anastas, should have it because
I have it, of course, and I like it very much. So I would propose to give it to Professor Mahmoud in order to be able to spread it through the Black Sea Universities network.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Of course, it's a pleasure. Yeah.
So please, Luciano, maybe you want to conclude this discussion.
No, I would thank you, Adam. I already spoke quite a lot. Again, I just want to thank everyone for the participation. For me, it was very interesting. I mean, I learned a lot, and I think again, it's a good way to share, ideas among members of the networks, and sometimes it's very good to do it with two networks together. And I want to thank all the panelists. I want to thank all the participants, and to thank Professor Mahmoud. We've been in touch very closely in the last few days, and it was a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. You know very well that this year we are planning also a Congress of the BSUN. This, for the time being, we have the plan to have it in September between 9 and 11 in Yerevan, Armenia. So we still are, let's say, stick to these dates, and we hope that you will also accept our invitation to join this event physically and not virtually. Once again, thank you very much for all your support, and I wish you an excellent evening further.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Goodbye.